Ladies and gentlemen, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Big Fight Field channel where we speak the truth, we're honest, we give our takes on professional wrestling. It is Wednesday night, April 1st, 2026, and this is your AEW Dynamite review. As tonight, they were live from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. I don't think I pronounced that right. I apologize, but there was an ongoing saga today on social media. Now, I was barely on social media today, you know, not on social media much. So, I don't know what's going on over on Twitter. I get on Twitter later on in the day, and there's Chris Jericho reports and reports about him not going back to WWE anytime in the future. Um, there's reports from Fightful Select that he is being discussed for an AEW return. I don't really think much of it because um, we've been seeing these reports for months now that he would be going to WWE, and WWE has plans for Chris Jericho, and WWE Jericho wants to go to WWE, but Tony Khan has frozen his contract because of touring with Fozzy and injuries, whatever the hell it is. We haven't seen that. And granted, this guy hasn't been on TV for over a year. We have not seen Chris Jericho in AEW since Dynasty last year in Philadelphia. That was the last time we've seen Chris Jericho. And there's all these reports, and I don't know who to believe anymore and who to trust. But then I come across on Twitter that Dynamite was in Jericho's hometown of Winnipeg. And like, whoa. Okay. It can't be coincidental that all these Jericho AEW reports are coming out the night AEW is going to be in his hometown of Winnipeg. And we get to the start of the show, and Tony Schiavone's in the ring, and there's like botched pyro, and I totally thought it was botched. Like, started the intro for Dynamite, and then the lights went off, and Judas started playing, and Jericho made his return in front of about 4,000 people in Winnipeg tonight. And at first, those people love Judas, okay? The people love Judas. So they are going to sing that song no matter what. I'm not saying this was a bad return by any means. I thought it was fine, but with a big return like this, Chris Jericho hasn't been on TV in over a year. It's been a year since this guy's been on TV. This is a pretty big deal. I did not think he got that huge reception that he absolutely would have gotten in WWE. And I'm not saying that they didn't sit on their hands in Winnipeg. They didn't do that. He got a nice welcome back. He got a welcome home chant. He got a Jericho chant. It felt weird for a little bit when he was getting the crowd to get hype, and felt like they were golf clapping for him. But honestly, this is my opinion. With all those reports, late last year, early this year, remember in January this year, oh, Jericho's going to be number 30 in the Royal Rumble in Saudi Arabia. Jericho is going to be back in WWE. One last run, one more year of Jericho in WWE. And we're not getting that. And honestly, this is my opinion. This could be my opinion only. I think he would have gotten a much bigger reaction if he came back to WWE than he would in AEW. Because let's remember the last time this guy was in AEW. This guy was getting booed out of the building. This guy wasn't getting booed because, you know, he's doing a great character work or whatever. No, it was go away television. People, AEW fans did not want to see Chris Jericho on their television in 2025. And all the stuff that they were doing with him and the learning tree and Big Bill, they dropped the ball with those guys. They're not even on TV anymore. We have to remember the last time Jericho was on AEW, those fans were saying, please retire. They were chanting for him to retire. Me included, I was a part of one of those fans. I will admit. Now I am happy that Jericho's back. I'm happy to see him on TV. He looked to be in fine shape. The man's 55 years old. He probably can still go. And he's very entertaining. Now, last week, he made a trademark. He made a trademark of the cornerstone. And that could have worked for WWE or AEW. And it feels like he's going to be portraying himself as the cornerstone of AEW. Chris Jericho is a very vital part in AEW becoming a thing in 2019. There is no AEW without a big star like Chris Jericho when it first started. So he came back. You know, he got cheers. They weren't thunderous, but he got cheers. And he just said, Winnipeg, AEW, I'm home. And he left. I don't know what he's going to do next week. I don't know if he's going to wrestle at the pay-per-view. I don't know what program or feud he's going to be in. I don't know. I really don't know. Because there's guys on the roster that, like, how long does Jericho have? Maybe a good year? Maybe 1 year. Maybe two. But I think 1 year could be realistic. And that could be me, overestimating him as a fan. But to me, I feel like he's got 1 good year left in him. What is AEW going to do with Chris Jericho in that time span? He absolutely does not need to be world champion. Let's just get that out of the way. Chris Jericho does not need to be world champion. I have no idea. I don't know. I don't know what guys he could work with. I saw something on social media with him having a feud with Kyle Fletcher. Please. Kyle Fletcher would run circles around him in that ring. That's not even fair. Chris Jericho at 55 years old going up against Kyle Fletcher, who's one of the best wrestlers in the entire world. I don't see that as realistic. Um, Again, I'm happy he's back. And I'm not saying I hate this. I don't hate this at all. I'm not saying this stinks. I just think, in my personal opinion, it would have been a way bigger deal if he went to WWE. Jericho going back to WWE under new regime. I'm not saying that regime is great now by any means, but Jericho going back to WWE under Triple H regime, I feel like that would have been a way bigger deal. But it seems like the reports of Tony Khan freezing his contract, and then all of a sudden, tonight, reports coming out, hey, Chris Jericho is being discussed in internal plans with AEW. And then at 8:02, poof, Chris Jericho's on AEW TV. And that's how that show kicked off tonight. So I basically just ran down Jericho's return in AEW tonight. So overall, I did think it was a fun show. I didn't think it was great by any means. I thought it was fun. Um, I liked the fact that it got done right at 10:02 because they love their overruns. They love their overruns. This company. Um, the ending was fine. It was perfect. Not perfect, but it was pretty good. We're going to Dynasty. We got Dynasty next weekend. I phrased that wrong. AW is on the road to Dynasty. I'm not actually going to Dynasty, but I was at Dynasty last year in Philly. But this year it's a different story. It's in Vancouver. Um, but we're building toward Dynasty. Okay, we got 4 matches set for that show, and it was very good. It was a pretty good show. So I appreciate you guys joining me. We've got a whole bunch of other stuff to talk about on this show. Um, and this is going to be an action-packed month on the Big Five Field channel. I'm telling you, we've got a whole lot of events to talk about here on the Big Five Field channel. First off, next weekend we got AEW Dynasty, so we'll be doing AEW content. I'm sure next weekend here on the Big Five Field channel, and we'll be doing our big AEW Dynasty review. Once that pay-per-view goes off the air next week. So next week we have Dynasty. The following week after that, it's one of the biggest weeks, if not the biggest week of the entire year for the world of professional wrestling, WrestleMania week. And that weekend we have 2 nights of WrestleMania, Saturday and Sunday. So we're going to be covering a lot of WWE that week. And then the following week after is the NFL draft. And yes, I will be doing reaction videos and stuff for the NFL draft. The Miami Dolphins have 7 picks in the top 100. Why wouldn't I want to make content here on the Big Five Field channel for that? Why wouldn't I? So we have a jam-packed April here on the Big Five Field channel. Subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. It's a good time to be very excited for content coming up here on the Big Five Field channel. So, we dive into Dynamite. We just talked about Chris Jericho. But the first actual segment was the contract signing with MJF and Kenny Omega. And Kenny is on the microphone. and he says somebody needs to knock you down a peg. Somebody needs to strike you down, and somebody needs to make sure that you are never ever close to that belt again. Your ego is way too big for that. So Kenny with the typical babyface promo, although Kenny felt very passionate tonight, which I liked. Um, and then of course MJF, the stereotypical um, usual promos that he does every week. This was very good. He says he'll make Kenny Omega fans embarrassed and ashamed of him after he targets his stomach, which has been his biggest issue because of his diverticulitis. He said they will have no choice but to admit that their God is nothing more than a false idol who'd be better off dead. So then Kenny flips the table, and his stipulation is Kenny can't touch MJF, or the match is off for next week. So Speedball comes out in defense of Kenny Omega. He says Kenny's a wrestling legend. You know, there would be no AEW without Kenny. You wouldn't be Maxwell Jacob Friedman without Kenny Omega. And basically what this does is this sets up MJF's anger issues. They get the best of him because now he has to wrestle Speedball Mike Bailey in the main event. So I thought it was a good contract signing, and there's been a lot of contract signings last month alone that have ended in a physical brawl. Shit, we just got one last night on NXT with Tony D'Angelo, Joe Hendry, Ethan Page, and Ricky Starks. And it ended with 2 tables being broken in that segment. We got the one with Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton, which ended up in an incredible heel turn. But still, brawling in a contract signing. So no brawl here in this contract signing. It felt different, and it felt nice. So I liked it. But then Kenny Omega was scheduled for a 6-man tag. It was Kenny teaming up with Brody King and Jack Perry to go up against Ricochet, Toa Leona, and Bishop Khan, The Demand. Very fun match. Non-stop action. This was your party match of the night. Brody King setting himself over the barricade to put Toa Leona through a table. That spot was by far the best spot of the entire match. It was all fun spots. Some great back and forths between Kenny and Ricochet. And that's how it ended. Kenny Omega hitting a V-trigger onto Ricochet. And Kenny Omega pins Ricochet to get this win for his team and to get some confidence going into Dynasty. So we go from there to Renee Paquette doing a backstage interview by herself, and Cope and Christian, they come walking up behind, and Cope just says, "We are looking for FTR, and anybody that gets in our way, we're going to take them out tonight." And Christian lifts up the steel chair, and Adam Copeland's like, "Stop it. Are you serious right now? Renee is not in our way." So Christian, absolutely losing his mind, was about to take Renee Paquette out with a steel chair. Excuse me. Pac and Will Ospreay was next. This was really Will Ospreay's first big match back in AEW. And oh, by the way, Cope and Christian, they ended up attacking RGP Who was it? Roppongi Vice. That's who it was. What are they calling him now? RGP Vice or whatever it is. I don't fucking know. Roppongi Vice. They took out Trent and Rocky, who was in FTR's locker room. I don't know why. But seems like next week we'll probably get a match on Dynamite now with Copeland and Christian going up against Trent and Rocky. That will probably happen next week on Dynamite. They'll be on Collision tomorrow if anybody's curious because FTR has a match. Now we can talk about Pac and Will Ospreay. This was great. Definitely the best thing on the entire show. Great match. I would say this was realistically, this was Will Ospreay's first match back. Because I know he had that match a couple weeks ago with Blake Christian, but that was like 7 minutes. And that crowd that night in Fresno, that was a brutal crowd. Brutal crowd. I did end up watching that episode of Dynamite. I didn't watch last week's. I was at the Sixers game last week, but the week prior to that, that crowd in Fresno was brutal. Really bad. So Ospreay's making his entrance, and Pac comes up from behind him to attack him, and he takes his jacket off. The crowd's booing him, and Pac gives him a brain buster on the aisleway. Right on the aisleway, Pac just gives him a brain buster. Doctors are telling Will, you have time until next week. Don't worry about tonight. You need to recuperate. And Will basically pushed him off and wanted to go in that ring to wrestle Pac. So we got Will Ospreay versus Pac. We got Pac on the top rope. A moonsault. Ospreay catches him. He tries to hit a DDT. Ospreay reverses. And Ospreay hits his own brainbuster in the ring. Pac goes for a moonsault. Ospreay catches him, but Pac went for the reverse DDT. The first time, and Ospreay reversed it. Ospreay did not reverse it this time. Pac was able to connect with that reverse DDT. We're in the ring. Pac lifts up Will Ospreay for a German suplex, in which Will kicks out at 2. Both guys are now on the top rope. Pac looks for a poison Rana, but Will Ospreay lands on his feet. Pac hits a sunset flip. Will Ospreay kicks out at 2. And Pac is just beating him and beating him. And he goes to the top rope. And he's looking for the combination of the Black Arrow and the Rings of Saturn. He hits the Black Arrow. He has the Rings of Saturn on for about 2 minutes. Okay? He had this thing on for a very long time. And all Will does is just lay back, cradle him, pin him 1, 2, 3. And Pac attacks him after the match. And he stands Will Ospreay up. And he goes for a move. And Ospreay hits him with the hidden blade. However, the rest of the Death Riders, they come out. Claudio puts the steel chair around Will Ospreay and around his neck, just like he did at Forbidden Door 8 months ago. And Moxley basically, he gets on the microphone, basically cutting a promo that says, don't make this personal. The only one who feels like this is personal is you. Don't give me a reason to make this feel personal. So, Great match with Pac and Osprey. Osprey won by the skin of his teeth, and basically the thing that I'm confused with, and we have no clarification of it, is this match next Sunday with Osprey and John Moxley. Um, is this match for Moxley's Continental Championship? I'm very confused because they were running down the card or whatever, or maybe they were talking about the match next week while Pac's entrance. I don't remember, but they were talking about this match, and Excalibur mentioned that it was for the title. Okay, he specifically said Osprey versus Moxley for the Continental Championship. And then, after everything gets done, and the Death Riders are done talking, they throw up the graphic, and it doesn't say for the AEW Continental Championship. It just says Will Ospreay versus John Moxley. So I'm very confused as to whether or not this match is for, or I'm confused whether or not this match is for the Continental Championship. And if I'm going to be honest with you, I hope it's not for the championship. Because this feud doesn't need to be for a championship. I won't be mad if it's for the Continental Championship. It just gives this match more stakes. But Will Ospreay should not be winning a championship until late August at Wembley Stadium. He should not be winning a championship before that. So I would save that for Wembley, and for that only, I hope it's not for the championship. But if it is for the Continental Championship, I for one will not be mad about that. So, besides that, I'm all in on this feud. I'm all in, man. So, we go from that to Triangle of Madness, Tekla, Sky Blue, and Julia Hart. They go up against Mina Shirakawa and the Brawling Birds. The Brawling Birds, I'm sorry. And while I didn't do Dynamite reviews for the past 2 weeks, they killed Tony Storm off television. Now, I read a report, I think it's from the Observer, that at some point very soon, they were going to do Tony Storm versus Tekla. I don't know when, but that was the plan. Tony Storm versus Tekla for the AEW Women's Championship. And now they did this storyline of, who killed Tony Storm. I don't know if she's hurt or she's taking a maternity leave. I'm reading a whole bunch of different things the last week. And I've even read that she's going to be out for the remainder of the year. Which absolutely sucks for the women's division. Because I thought they had, at the end of last year, I thought they were going in a very solid direction. And then, just the beginning of this year, it's just felt flat. Like, the Tekla Chris Statlander feud, it was fine. But who do they have? The Mercedes is not on AEW. She's going to be making her way back soon. They kind of need her right now. No Tony Storm, they need Mercedes. Right now, Tekla is their AEW Women's Champion. And I don't know if Tekla has that star power that Tony Khan wants. So, I don't know. But this match here, I didn't really care for it. I don't know the backstory as to why this is happening. I don't know why Mina is fighting with the Triangle of Madness. I know she beat Marina. It just felt so weird 2 weeks ago. Tony versus Marina. It was supposed to be, and then they killed Tony off television. Then it was Mina taking her place in a no holds barred match, and Mina beat Marina Shafir clean. And I was very confused by that, and I just don't know. I'm very confused as to what's supposed to be the top feud right now for the AEW Women's Division. I truly don't know. They just separated the Babes of Wrath. They separated Harley Cameron and Willow Nightingale, so they're no longer a tag team. Willow Nightingale's the TBS champion, so they've got to get a good feud going up for her. And I really I like who out there like Mina. Who's a credible babyface to face Tekla right now? I don't think AEW has one in the women's division. I I don't know. Then we got Darby. Darby coming out. He's like, I'm not playing games. What happened last week is complete horse shit. I'm tired of playing games. I don't want to be involved with the Don Callis family. I want MJF and everything that he has, which is the AEW World Championship. So he calls out MJF. And instead, the Don Callis family, they come out because MJF is paying the Don Callis family to go ahead and take out Darby Allin. And Don revealed that him and MJF made an agreement on who should face Darby Allin. Who from the family should face Darby Allin at Dynasty. And they decided on Andrade. And Andrade was very shocked by this. It was quite obvious when he was standing right next to Don Callis who it was going to be. So Andrade hates this. He doesn't like that Don Callis is working with MJF because Andrade wants to be he wants to go after the AEW World Championship. Now he's doing MJF's dirty work for him. So excuse me. Callis and MJF both decide that Andrade is going to face Darby at Dynasty. And if Darby wins, MJF will give him a match for the AEW World Championship. And in the main event, we have MJF versus Speedball Mike Bailey, title eliminator. They have MJF coming out as the American hero. Speedball dressed up in all Canada. Kenny Omega's on commentary. They had a good match. I enjoyed it. It was quite obvious MJF was not going to lose to Speedball. Come on now. And he pinned him clean as a whistle in his home country of Canada. Clean as a sheet. Heath Seeker looked right at Kenny. Attacked Speedball after the match. Kenny came for the save. And that was it. This match ended at 9:58. I'm like, there's no way that's the end of the show. There's no way that's how they're ending the show. And then after that, after MJF dodged, after MJF ran out of the ring from Kenny, the show ended. And at the end, I'm like, you know what? I'm okay with that. I like that. They should do that more often. The show ended at 10:02. 15 minutes is a big difference when it comes to a wrestling show, okay? So, although sometimes, most of the time, there's a good reason as to why they're doing an overrun, tonight they didn't need to do an overrun. And it felt nice. It felt really nice. So that's all I got for you guys tonight. I hope you enjoyed the AEW review. Subscribe, comment down below your thoughts on AEW Dynamite tonight. Hit the like button if you like what you heard from me. Follow me on Twitter and TikTok, Colin_Joseph. And I will see you guys Friday night. Oh boy, we're back. SmackDown. The worst show in all professional wrestling right now. My most criticized show, Friday Night SmackDown. We're back on Friday. All right, guys. Have a good night. Stay safe. And I'll see you guys Friday night. Peace.